Hello and welcome back to the Jet Press Podcast. My name is Justin Fried, and I'm joined, as always, by my good friend, Mike Luciano. Mike, you don't know how bad that I wanted to come on here on this show today and talk about how excited I am that Jets football is back, that we are less than, 4 days away from week one, from the start of the Jets season, about 24 hours away from the start of the NFL season. And I'm still excited. But unfortunately, we received a bit of news this morning. I'm sure Jets fans have seen the injury news about Alijah Vera-Tucker, which we will talk about momentarily. That has really bummed me out. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to talk about some Jets predictions. And we're also going to be doing a little preview of the Jets week one matchup. We'll be joined by a close friend, Tommy Jagai, a little fan-sided crossover here. Tommy Jagai of Still Curtain covers the Pittsburgh Steelers. We'll have him on the show as well. But Mike, I'm going to stop rambling. How you doing today, buddy? What's going on?
I appreciate you said Stillers in there before you corrected yourself.
Did I say?
Yeah. You yinsed it up a bit there. Here's what the Jets always do. Anytime you have a monicum of hope, a sliver of hope, because we're not even like crazy hopeful thinking they're going to make the playoffs or anything this year. What they do is they take you, right? They grab you by the gentleman's area. Jeez. They take you to a car door and just slam that car door right on it. That's what they do to you.
What a terrible visual to start the show.
Well, what else am I supposed to do to describe losing Alijah Vera-Tucker, a guy who has been a rock-solid performer when healthy, but just can't stay healthy? You thought he was finally getting past it because last year he starts 15 games. You think, what do you know? He's finally starting to turn around, and then down the drain. He's likely going to be out for the entire 2025 season.
Well, hold on. I feel a little bit better now, Mike, because Austrian Jet Fan just gifted 20 memberships.
Yes, all right. That is one way to that is one way to help ease the pain. Austrian Jet Fan, thank you for the 20 memberships. Goodness. You again are the man. A lot of people want to be the man, but you actually walk and talk it. Thank you so much, Austrian Jet Fan, and all these 20 guys who are now Jet Press members, which you can get for 99 cents. You get priority reply to all your comments in the chat. And if you're a member, and even if you're not a member, what you got to do is subscribe. You got to like the stream. You got to find us on all the podcast platforms, Apple, Google, Spotify, Overcast, wherever you get your podcasts, because we're on all of them. And that's how you help support the show and help us make more good content for you. As Brian Sternbeck says, who let AVT practice in Denver today? We'll get into Alijah Vera-Tucker because that is the big story of the day. There's short and long-term implications of this. I'm going to start with the short term because the Jets, to the surprise of no one, are going to be a run-first team. How often do they talk about run the ball till people throw up? That's all we've heard from Aaron Glenn and Tanner Engstrand in terms of their style and what they want to do offensively this year. Integral to that is Alijah Vera-Tucker, who is probably their best offensive lineman of the five. We like this offensive line, but AVT, if you had to pick one of them, who's the best, as John Munduck says, fellas, I made it. Thank you, John Munduck.
John, welcome.
For making it. Come and grieve with us as we complain that Alijah Vera-Tucker is no longer healthy for the 2025 season.
He missed Austrian Jets fans' donation.
I just missed it. We'll come back next time. Maybe we'll be in the next sweepstakes. But so AVT is out for 2025. This is now the third major injury in 4 years because he has an Achilles injury, which is never good. And it's a torn tricep. Now, the really messed up thing is it's not even the same tricep he tore in Denver the first time. It's the other tricep that he tore. So now he's got both triceps that are surgically rehabilitated. So he's probably going to be gone for the entire year, or if not that, enough of the year where his impact's going to be minimalized. Maybe he comes back at the end of the year for a couple games, but what good does that do you? He's probably going to be gone for 2025. Short term, this is not, I don't want to say the end of the world, because probably what's going to happen if John Simpson's healthy, which it seems like he's going to play week one.
Yeah, he practiced on Tuesday.
Is Josh Myers is going to go start the center spot, not necessarily because he won the job over Joe Tippmann, but because Joe Tippmann has the ability to slide over to right guard.
I was going to say that. I guess this means by default, de facto, Josh Myers won the center competition. Look at that.
I guess, but Tippmann. So it's certainly a worse offensive line. It's not what you want, but it's certainly not debilitating. But the problem is long term, I think this completely rules out any sort of AVT long-term deal. As Austrian Jet Fan says, next man up. Yeah, next man up sounds good, but if next man up's Xavier Newman, then things are going to be
well. It's Josh Myers. It's Josh Myers for now, which I don't know if it's a hot take. I think he is not much better than Xavier Newman. I think they're both quality depth, right? But obviously quality offensive line depth in the NFL is generally not what you want starting.
So I think this rules out any AVT deal because you're a big AVT fan. I think even you would have to say back in the offseason we were talking about this. If he gets hurt again, that's going to be my big hang-up because the thought was they're going to keep one of Simpson or Alijah Vera-Tucker. And Simpson is the inferior player. He's good, but he's an inferior player and he's older. I could see why they don't necessarily want to commit to him long-term over AVT. But now this is 3 times in 4 years. AVT may end up going to Philly or Detroit or Denver or one of these teams that always has good offensive lines. And he might Mekhi Becton it and finally stay healthy and be an all-pro. That's probably going to end up happening because AVT is really good. But there's no way, if I'm Darren Muji at this point, and as much as we like Alijah Vera-Tucker, that I can really realistically give him like a 3 or 4 year contract because that's now going to be 3 out of 4 years where the most games he's played in a year is 5 or 7. And you can't deal with that. It's just not tenable, unfortunately. And it's not his fault, but that's the reality we're in.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the long-term ramifications because that's what I'm more interested in. Obviously, short-term, you hit on it already. Josh Myers is likely going to start at center. Joe Tippmann will slide to right guard. It's a downgrade. I think it's a downgrade in 2 positions. One, because I think Vera-Tucker is a better guard than Tippmann is, although I think Joe Tippmann will hold up fine at right guard. We've seen him play the position in the past. I don't think it's been an issue, and we'll talk about what that could mean long-term for Tippmann in a second. You're also downgrading, I think, significantly at center, especially in the run game. Josh Myers has really struggled with that in Green Bay, and, again, for a team that is expected to run the hell out of the ball this year and lean on that ground game as much as they can, you are now going from the offensive line being, hey, maybe this unit could be top 8 in the NFL, right? If everybody hits their ceiling and stays healthy to now I just want them to be top half, right? Like I think that's I've had to adjust my expectations going into the year. If Josh Myers starts all 17 games for this Jets team and the rest of the guys stay healthy, if they finish top 15, I think that's a win. Like I think there's a significant enough drop off from Vera-Tucker and Tippmann being your center right guard combination to now Myers Tippmann being your center right guard combination.
At least your quarterback isn't notorious for holding the ball very long.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Yeah. I mean, I'm also concerned about Myers and pass protection because he's not been particularly good there either. But the more important conversation, I think, is the long-term ramifications. You already hit on it a little bit, what this could mean for Vera-Tucker long-term because he's entering a contract year. And from an emotional, like human standpoint, first of all, I'm devastated for him.
Oh,
I'm heartbroken.
I was like voted captain a couple days ago for crying out loud.
Named captain a few days ago. That man worked his ass off to get back from not 1 but 2 season-ending injuries. Of course, had the triceps injury in Denver in 2022. A year almost to the day, tore his Achilles in Denver in October of 2023. Comes back, was mostly healthy last year. Had the ankle injury, was banged up a little bit, but he played 15 of a possible 17 games. And he came back this year. Massive season for him because he was entering a contract year. We talked about this, Mike, a few times in the offseason where I said, look, I will go to bat for Alijah Vera-Tucker and say, I am not willing to call him injury prone because it's been 2 separate injuries that are freak accidents that are unrelated to each other. I think he had just gotten bad luck. Well, now he's had 2 torn triceps. And I know it's not the same tricep, but man, if you have 3 season-ending injuries in 4 years, there's no way to
avoid injury prone.
Right. There's no way to avoid the injury prone label. And that it breaks my heart. Like it genuinely makes me really sad because this is somebody who is in line for a major payday, likely from the Jets entering that contract year. And now this injury is probably
look at what the market's become for linemen lately. I mean,
Robert Hunt got $20 million a year.
I don't know if he would get that, but it'd be close to it.
Yeah. If he
might have to take like a 1-year prove it deal now off of this.
If he stayed healthy this year and had the best season of his career, was borderline Pro Bowler, which I think was very possible given the guys he's got around him, I could see him pushing Robert Hunt money. Like Robert Hunt what accolades did he have in Miami? He just was healthy. Vera-Tucker hasn't been healthy, but if he was healthy this year, that means 2 years in a row that he was healthy and coming off a great year. So it's not a stretch to say this has cost him potentially tens of millions of dollars. And now he's going into a situation where if he is out for all, if not most of 2025, I'm not sure what his next contract looks like. And I'm very much not sure it comes from the Jets. But aside from that as well, I think this also impacts the long-term futures of other guys on that Jets offensive line. I think it impacts the entire long-term outlook of this Jets offensive line. John Simpson is also a free agent at the end of the year. And I had talked about this in the summer of, hey, there's 2 guards they have that are both set to be free agents at the end of the year. It's not impossible, but it's rare to see teams pay 2 offensive guards in the same offseason, especially. I think it's very clear now which of those players the Jets will probably prioritize.
I mean, now they know, but they didn't want to find out like this.
Assuming Simpson has a similar year to how he did last year, because he's still kind of a one-year wonder. Like, he was fine in Baltimore, but still a below-average starter. He had the great year last year. If he does that again, absolutely, I assume he gets paid. So I think this impacts his future. And then it also impacts Joe Tippmann's future. And I think that's something that a lot of people on Twitter I've seen mention is, what if the Jets just keep Tippmann at right guard permanently moving forward? I think that's absolutely a possibility. They kind of were pretty heavy-handed with how they feel about Tippmann at center this summer. And I think part of that was because of Myers. And I think they like Myers more than Jets fans do and more than the numbers do.
Then why did they pay him no money?
Because no one else is willing to pay him more. The market says what the market says. And I think the Jets believe they got a steal. Like, they believe they got really good value on that Myers contract. And so I think part of it was that. But part of it was also the new regime might have been a little concerned with Tippmann's snapping issues. And they might have thought, hey, maybe, he's 6'6" center. Possibly he has a higher upside as a guard. And maybe that is true. And we'll see that this year, because he is likely, assuming Myers stays healthy and assuming he stays healthy, he's likely going to get a full year of tape now as a starting guard in the NFL. So that will be very interesting for his evaluation moving forward, even if the Jets even if the Jets bring back John Simpson and maybe they do something with Myers, maybe they get another center. It's very possible that Joe Tippmann has played his last game at center for the Jets, or at least like the last time we're talking about him as a starting center going into the year. I think it's very feasible to imagine a scenario where he's the long-term starting right guard.
Let's get to a couple comments in chat. Let's start with Austrian Jets fan first. Guard next draft. Maybe. That's the problem too, is this team needs wide receiver help so badly. They need pass rusher help outside of the top two so badly. And now they may have to take some assets away from fixing that, or spend in free agency on kind of an iffy class to address the lack of AVT if they want to keep Tippmann at center. I don't think it's necessarily a foregone conclusion, but this is a position I thought they had kind of set for the next year or two, and now they don't. One day, now they don't.
I wouldn't prioritize guard in the drafts. Look, I know the Jets.
IOL's very weak this year. I know too.
Yeah, I know the Jets have not had a lot of luck drafting mid-round offensive linemen, but we talked about this in the past. You look at the best offensive lines around the league. Generally, there's at least one or two starters who were not premium picks, right? The Jets have
Ryan Winters ain't walking through that door,
which is crazy. That's the bar. I mean, Winters was
that's the guy. Yeah.
Kent State legend. The Jets have that in Simpson. Simpson was like their value signing. I would expect a similar-ish move, unless, right? I mean, if you want to go into the draft saying, "Hey, look, let's try and find let's fully solidify this offensive line. Let's look at the center position. Get ready to learn Connor Lew," because that's the guy. I've already seen so many people talking about him. I know it's super early. It's only September right now, but Auburn center Connor Lew is somebody who I think is getting a lot of hype, and
I think Armaj Reed Adams from A&M is the big guy.
Is he really over Connor Lew?
Him, and then I think there was a guy, I think it might have been the guy from Florida, Jake Slaughter. I think those are the top two I've seen.
Maybe. I mean, either way.
I want a center named Jake Slaughter. That's an acceptable
that is
replacement.
That is a good name. Either way,
That sounds like an Arnold guy, Special Agent Jake Slaughter.
It kind of does. I like it. Either way, I don't think they're going to invest heavily in the interior offensive line. Like, because if they extend Simpson, I don't think whatever else they do, they're going to expend top dollar, because they're going to have to extend Tippmann probably soon as well. So probably looking at a middle round draft pick or another John Simpson-esque signing.
Brian Sternbeck, it's hopefully not debilitating this year, but for that 2022 O-line, it was.
You could hope it'd be better. I mean, the 2022 O-line fell apart after.
They didn't have Fashanu or Membu.
They did not have Fashanu or Membu. They did not have, well, I guess Tippmann was starting. Oh, no, that was 2022. I was thinking 2023. He stepped in a guard for Vera-Tucker. Sorry, wrong Alijah Vera-Tucker season.
I mean, how can you keep track of him?
My bad. I mean,
that was the left tricep. We're talking about the right tricep.
Again, you're just putting a lot of faith in the coaching staff now. What do you got, Steve Hyden? What can what can you do with Josh Myers now starting at center? And assuming other injuries happen, what can you do when Max Mitchell gets thrust into action for a game or two? What can you do when Xavier Newman is forced out there, or Esa Pole, right? Like, there's going to be bumps in the road. You're going to have to adapt along the way. And I think a lot of that's going to fall on the coach.
At least they don't play TJ Watt right off the bat.
Yeah, Cam Hayward too, right? Thank God there's no Cam Hayward, TJ Watt coming to town. Alex Highsmith.
Brian Sternbeck again. AVT is going to go down as my first draft crush to bust with the Jets. He was the first round pick they ever made that I explicitly wanted them to draft. And he was purely on field he's played up to that status.
Absolutely, he has.
The fact he hasn't been a Pro Bowler, in my opinion, I think is influenced by he's been on crap teams his entire career. But
and
you look at him in a vacuum. I'm not saying this guy's Quentin Nelson here, but he's certainly, I think, a Pro Bowl talent that's gone under the radar. And now he may never really get to show it again, because who knows if he's even going to be AVT again. This is 3 big injuries in 4 years.
With offensive linemen, you're not going to see them make the Pro Bowl unless they are amazingly good for like 5, 6, 7 years in a row, or they play for one of the best teams, or are part of like
some guys get in like the PFF film watcher miasma, and then they get picked up as a hot name.
It's literally a PR thing. Like if you have good PRs and offensive linemen, then you're going to continuously get rewards, whether you're good or not. Like there were a couple of years where Quentin Nelson wasn't particularly amazing. He was still getting Pro Bowls. He was still getting
Ryan Clady at the end with the Broncos when he was still when the Jets got him.
I was about to say Jets legend Ryan Clady.
Yeah. Or what was the other guy? Ryan Khalil with the Panthers?
Ryan Khalil. Well, that was a. Which one was the center, Matt or Ryan?
Khalil was the center. Matt was the tackle who busted.
Right. I don't know why I mixed those two up. Yes, Ryan Khalil, Joe Douglas. One of Joe Douglas's, I don't know. And I was gonna say best signings, but I remember when the Jets signed him, it was like August or whatever. People were like, "Oh my God, they just saved the offensive line."
Former Pro Bowler.
Former Pro Bowler. Well, he was still really good before they signed him. Like he was genuinely good.
And then he put the Jets helmet on and he sucked.
Then he like called it quits at the perfect time because he retired when he was still great, and then he threw all that away to unretire and come back for the Jets and be terrible.
Trey Junkin vibes, if you remember that.
I do not. I don't know who that is.
He was a long snapper for. Remember that one game the Giants lost in the playoffs? It was like a long snap that went wrong.
What year?
It was like early 2000.
Oh no.
The guy was a long snapper for like 20-something years. He retires. Their long snapper gets hurt in like week 17. They're like, "Hey, can you come back for the playoffs just for like a couple games?" He goes, "Okay." And then he made that big mistake and he never played again.
Tarnishing your legacy as a long snapper is
Trey Junkin, baby. Brian Glick. Pay likely tied to game availability is in the cards for AVT next year, which is a shame. He's going to have to take like a Tyron Smith, you get paid every game you're healthy kind of deal instead of a 4-year, mostly guaranteed contract. That just stinks, man.
I could still see a scenario where he comes back to the Jets, and it's possible, like, you could look at this.
Not on a multi-year deal, I don't think.
Not on a multi-year deal, or at least not anything guaranteed beyond 1 year. You could possibly, like, in some ways, you could look at this as a silver lining for the Jets, because you could look at it as, well, we're going to get to see Tippmann play guard, and maybe we can find out if he's the long-term solution there, and maybe you can somehow get Vera-Tucker back for cheaper and for a short-term deal, right, and hope he can stay healthy, but it still sucks. Like, it's all around.
It still sucks. The thing I'm concerned about, though, too, is you look at we joke around about the Steelers also, but I mean, Buffalo, like Tampa Bay, these are tough defenses they got coming up.
Yeah.
Early on.
Now you're forcing Armand Membu, rookie right tackle, to not only face TJ Watt week 1, but he now has to play alongside a player he has not practiced alongside literally at all this summer. I know Tippmann's been playing guard a bit, so he is fine. Like he's played right guard in his career. He was playing left guard a little bit this summer. Membu has been playing next to Vera-Tucker every single day of practice since the spring. So now with like 4 days, he's going to have like a day of practice to practice alongside a different player. That is a disaster waiting to happen.
And then not only TJ Watt, but also Alex Highsmith, Cam Hayward,
Alex Highsmith, Derek
no
Harmon.
let up.
I think Derek Harmon is out for week 1, so that's
okay.
Some reprieve, I guess.
So let's go and talk about some, as Edward Figueroa, big loss. Yeah, I would work on your grammar there, Edward. No, it is.
He's saying that they lost a big guy.
Yes, they lost a big guy, but even that's probably even worse grammatically than if that's what he was going for.
Big lost. Yeah, he's just caveman speak.
Lose big player. Me sad.
Me upset. Me devastated.
So let me make bold Jets predictions. Okay. Let's go make some predictions because we were going to do a big prediction show, and AVT's arm exploded and kind of changed the calculus a little bit. So
I love your imagery.
That's what happened. His tricep is Philly cheesesteak instead of an intact muscle now. So
from the cold open to this, you're really painting pictures today.
I am. I am a wordsmith at this moment in time. So if I'm looking at when I want to say bold, I also don't want to be unreasonable.
Sure.
But when I say bold, I'm going to go look at the offense right now because this is not going to be a good passing game by design. I think that Mason Taylor is honestly going to have over 800 yards receiving and about 7 touchdowns.
Woo! Okay.
I am crazy high on Mason Taylor.
Those are like Cole Kmet numbers from when like his best year with Fields. So I see where you're going with that.
Not only that, because Fields loves a tight end. He liked Kmet. Even when in Pittsburgh, there was a lot of Freiermuth action going on there. He loves a tight end.
He does.
Do you trust Josh Reynolds to win in one-on-one matchups at this point in his career?
No. At any point in his career, no.
Every single defense, Mike Tomlin will do this. Sean McDermott will do it in week 2. Todd Bowles will do it in week 3. They're going to go into the game plan saying, all right, let's just bracket Garrett Wilson and somebody else is going to beat us. And I don't think Josh Reynolds is going to beat people. Mason Taylor might beat people. And if the Jets do, because I don't think the Jets are going to run the triple option like we're watching an Army-Navy game here or anything like that. But if they're going to throw the ball, I think the volume Taylor's going to get is going to be really exceptional for a rookie tight end. I think that the way tight ends are coming up now, I think there's a lot less of a learning curve, especially from a physicality point of view. Like tight ends, very few tight ends back in the day would come in week 1 and kind of be a star immediately now. I think now the receiving upside is so crazy that there's always a way for guys to contribute. Like Tyler Warren's expected to be an immediate like Pro Bowl threat. Look at Bowers last year. I know some Jets fans are even still wishing that Bowers may have ended up on the Jets after the year that he had. I really think the volume's going to be there for Mason Taylor, and we both really liked him as a prospect. Again, not an amazing athlete, but he just does a little bit of everything so well to the point where I think he's one of those guys going to end up being with the Jets for 8-9 years, which they don't get a lot of that in the draft, especially after round 1.
I like it. I think that's very similar to, I got to look up I should have been doing that while you're talking, what Cole Kmet's numbers were in his best year with the Bears. Yeah, it was 73 catches, 719 yards, and 6 touchdowns. I think it's reasonable to predict that Taylor could put up similar numbers. And then, Garrett Wilson obviously he's going to be the number 1 option in the offense. But if I was predicting right now, I would guess that Mason Taylor finishes second on the team in catches this year. I think Breece might be in that conversation, pending his status, which maybe will lead into one of my predictions. But I definitely
don't like where this is going.
Yeah, but I definitely think that Taylor is going to get his share of volume. My one concern, and I know they're bold predictions, right? So these aren't necessarily the most realistic. I think he'll be second in catches and yards. I just think it'll be lower numbers. I just think there's not going to be enough volume in the overall passing game for him to get 70 catches and 700 yards or 800 yards, whatever you said. Because I just think outside of Garrett, who is probably going to push 1,000 yards again. I mean,
that's the logic. I think the teams are going to go so into stopping Garrett.
Right.
I think there's a breakout game or two for Taylor in there.
Oh, I agree. I think Garrett probably still hits 1,000 yards. He's obviously better than barely hitting 1,000 yards. It's just the situation around him is so dire. But outside of that, I'm not sure.
Terry McLaurin before last year.
Right. Outside of that, though, I'm not sure anybody on the team gets over 600 yards, or even 500. I think Mason Taylor.
Some teams have 4 guys who do that. The
Jets the Bengals. I think Taylor will be second in catches and yards, though, and I don't think that part's a bold prediction. The numbers are definitely bold, though. I'd love to see it. That will lead me, though, to my first bold prediction, which I don't know how bold I went with mine. I went
well, I'll be the judge of that.
I didn't go. I went also all of these are within the realm of possibility and very realistic. Maybe they're just a little I don't know. I'm taking a stance on what I think will happen. I think Breece Hall is traded before the deadline, and I think he's traded for either a day 3 pick or a swap of day 3 picks, maybe a 5th or a 4th going for a 6th or something like that.
Is that really the best ROI though? If you flip Breece for a day 3 pick after picking him top 40,
if you've decided by the deadline that you are likely not to extend him, then yes, at that point, then you trade him for whatever you can get, and I imagine it won't be much. I think the writing is on the wall. This is not me saying this is definitely going to happen, right? Maybe Breece comes out and he's amazing, right? But I don't think it was a particularly amazing summer for Breece Hall. There were still some reports of fumble issues and drops, and that's what derailed him last year. He had 6 fumbles after fumbling just 6 times, after fumbling 3 times total over the first 2 years of his career. He had 6 fumbles last year. He led the team. This is a team that has Allen Lazard. Breece Hall led the Jets in drop passes. Had more than Allen Lazard last year. People rag on Allen Lazard for all that, and I feel like Breece has gotten a pass for his ball security issues at least a little bit. And I think the Jets really love Braylon Allen, and I think they really like Isaiah Davis, and I think that if Breece doesn't come out and light the world on fire to start the year and prove that he deserves a second contract in New York, that he is not going to get one. And if you have decided that you are not going to give Breece Hall a second contract, there is no reason not to trade him. So I could see a scenario where maybe the Dallas Cowboys come calling. I know Denver had conversations.
Cowboys definitely want to win after the move.
They are. They're trying to win. Hey, look, Kenny Clark wasn't a move for the future, Mike.
Peeling back the curtain a little bit, when that trade happened, I was with a colleague of ours who does work for the Dallas Cowboys, and he was just he was just having something to eat, and then I informed him of the trade. And
you broke the news to him?
Well, yeah, I felt bad about it, but yeah, because I just saw the Rappaport siren tweet, and the color draining out of his face.
Oh, poor Jerry.
Yeah, but
poor Jerry.
That was I felt bad for him. I still feel bad for him because he, like us, knows the what it's like to work with a megalomaniac owner.
Yeah, that's very true. But yeah, I can see the Cowboys.
Willie Johnson didn't do that and then get his name. That press conference almost made me go.
It was insane.
The fact he kept calling him Michael. The fact that
which was intentional. Like that's so obvious.
Or he just thinks he's Michael Irvin.
No. Jerry Jones is absolutely the type of person who will do that to try and like make Micah Parsons feel lesser. Like he's trying to do that to basically like diminish his significance, right? Which is clearly like that's his intention here.
But we got to stop the run. You know what? Just in your daily life, use that as an excuse. If like your wife or your girlfriend's like, hey, you were out so late. What's the problem? Just be like, I got to stop the run. Like
I love how there was also the report that came out that the Panthers were interested, and the Cowboys approached them about 2 first-round picks and Derek Brown.
That's actually not actually bad,
dude. If that was the package, this would be a totally different conversation. Derek Brown,
not good, but I mean,
it's not like there's not going to be a fair return for Micah Parsons in a lot of ways. And also you got to remember the context is the Cowboys don't have a ton of leverage here and he's entering the final year of his contract. If they got Derek Brown plus 2 first-round picks, much better first-round picks, might I add, because the Panthers are definitely not as good of a team as the Packers. A very different conversation, but instead he wanted
to get back onto
sure
on the Jets right here.
Yeah, but I could see a team coming to call for Breece Hall. I know Denver had conversations with the Jets before the draft. They seem unlikely after drafting RJ Harvey, but Cowboys are in the mix, like as a team that could do it. There's other teams as well. Maybe the Commanders, after trading away Brian Robinson. I don't know, but definitely not Bijan. Did you see the video that went viral of the guy in Fantasy League drafting Brian Robinson with the first pick instead of Bijan?
That's on purpose. I think that's fake.
Maybe it was one of those like
you
draft
would know.
boards.
You had the names are right there.
It was one. No, it was one of those draft boards, and it
says,
you
just see B Robinson.
Correct, B Robinson, but he got the team wrong. It says WAS instead of ATL, and he
like me being a softie, but you let that go. Like you know what he meant to do.
Nah, I think it's funny. I don't think.
I think that might have been a little. John Munduck says by week 4, Braylon Allen will be RB1.
I wouldn't be shocked. I think what's more likely if Breece is traded is that Breece is still RB1, whatever that even means, because it's going to be some sort of a committee until he's traded. And then once he's traded, then the Jets fully unleash Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis and see what they got in those guys. It is unfortunate they lost Donovan Edwards. Not that Edwards is like this amazing piece, but like he probably would have gotten an opportunity at some point this year, assuming that Breece was traded. They got Lawrence Toafili on the practice squad, so maybe he gets a shot. But yeah, that's my prediction is Breece is traded by the deadline and they get a day 3 pick or a swap of day 3 picks back.
I got an even bolder prediction.
Okay.
The Jets are going to go just in your base nickel defense. So 5 starting defensive backs.
Sure.
More than half of them will be Pro Bowlers this year.
So 3 of the 5.
I think 2.
Wow.
Sauce, sure. Obviously.
Okay. Wow. All right.
I think a healthy Michael Carter. I think I really think he could be a Pro Bowl guy. He's played like a Pro Bowler in the past.
How often do nickel corners when's the last? Do nickel corners make Pro Bowls?
Yeah, sure.
Do they have
make a bunch or
do they have a specific spot for nickel? I don't even know. Do they have a specific designation for nickel corners?
I don't think so, but I think with the way that things have been, the winds have been turning lately. I think that nickel corner's kind of getting a little more.
They should. I'm not saying they shouldn't.
Jalen Ramsey's going to play nickel corner for a little bit this year. Like they're going to move him around.
Yeah.
And then
who was your third?
He was my third.
Yeah.
Of the 3 left, isn't the most likely not Brandon Stevens?
Are you saying all 3 Jets corners are AFC Pro Bowl representatives?
Here's my lot, because I will say this. What's the move that we liked the least in the offseason? Was Brandon Stevens.
Yeah. That's logic.
Everything we've heard ups and downs from a lot of guys in the Breeze, Garrett had a bad day, Justin Fields up and down. All we've heard from Brandon Stevens pretty much has been he's been really good. He's improving. That whole deal is an Aaron Glenn heat check. I can fix this guy. What if he fixes this guy? what if, because physically he's got everything you want. Big, He's fast. What if he fixes his technique? How is the sky not the limit for this guy?
Yeah, I'm not.
And as Sauce said, I don't care how bad you are. You always go when you're playing besides me. That's a direct quote from Sauce Gardner. So
I'm not like I'm encouraged by what we've heard about Brandon Stephens this summer, and I think he absolutely could be in line for a much better season.
He'll at least be better than he was with the Ravens.
Yeah, you would hope, right? I mean, he was one of the worst cornerbacks in football last year, so I would hope the bar should be pretty low for that. I mean, I know we're being bold here. There were 4 representatives from the Pro Bowl for cornerbacks in the AFC that made the Pro Bowl last year.
I'm counting also guys that'll drop out and be like, oh,
sure.
I'm going fishing around.
I think the Jets would have to have the best pass defense in NFL, like bar none in NFL history, and probably be good for all 3, for even 2 of them, honestly, to get.
I still think that's the strongest area of the team, though.
Yeah, that or I would have said offensive line. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would say that anymore. Yeah, I think it's not like a crazy take to say that Michael Carter will hopefully be better this year. Or, he's hurt for most of last year. He was dealing with the back injury, and I'm hoping for a bounce back year from him. And, Brandon Stephens had a pretty good summer, and there's a lot of talk about, how this Jets coaching staff thinks they've unlocked him. We'll see if that's the case. And Sauce, I mean, I don't want to say he's a given for the Pro Bowl if he's healthy, but he's one of the 4 best cornerbacks in the AFC, so you would hope that he makes it. I don't know if the other 2 are going to make it, but I love that you went bold with that. I love that you took the bold prediction.
Sorry for being bold in the bold prediction.
No, you don't have to be sorry. You don't have to be sorry. You definitely went bolder than me. Mine was Brees will get traded, which is like already something I said was a 50-50
I think that's like going to happen. So
that was something I said was a 50-50 chance like a couple of weeks ago. Well, now none of mine are nearly that bold.
Oh, you're one of those guys who's like, I really got a lot of upsets this year, and you pick a 12 over.
No, tournament. Okay. You want me to be honest, Mike? I hate the concept of bold predictions. I know we have to do them because we are, a content machine and that's how this shit works. And we have to produce content. And I also know this is silly because I was the one that messaged you and said, hey, let's do bold predictions. And I realized that. However, I don't like the concept of bold predictions.
Your next prediction, Mr. Fried.
I think they're dumb in theory, just as a general rule, I think they're dumb. And I want to make predictions that I think are relatively realistic. Anyway. My second prediction. I have 4 listed here, but I'm only going to do 2. Do I want to do another rush now? All right. This is so unbelievably tame compared to what you just said. I think the Jets are going to have a top 3 special teams unit in 2025.
Oh, no.
That's so much tamer than what you said. But
on what metric?
Well, what a PFF grade, whatever you want to use, to define that. I think outside of punt return right now, which I think is still absolutely a question mark for the Jets.
I think Pritchard will be in there soon anyway.
I agree. I think Pritchard will get a shot eventually. But I think right now, every other spot in the special teams unit is has the potential at least to be one of the best in the NFL. Kenny Nwangwu is a former All-Pro who returned one of his 4 kicks for a touchdown last year and is clearly one of the best kick returners, I think, in the NFL. Austin McNamara was probably the best punter in the NFL this summer.
Well, I have interviewed Austin McNamara. You can check that out on Stack in the Box. Yeah, back when he was a UDFA out of Texas Tech.
That's right. You did. I forgot about that.
I think he had got a contract with the Bengals after that.
Yes, he spent a few months with the Bengals. Got cut either before preseason or
very early
in preseason. They didn't even really get a chance to be the job. Which, after seeing what he did for the Jets this summer, is kind of crazy. This dude is clearly an NFL punter, but. And then Nick Folk, who looked rock solid, as steady as can be this summer, and he looked great in the preseason as well, has missed, I think, a total of 2 kicks over the last 2 years.
This ain't another Zerline situation.
Well, yeah, obviously kickers, you never know. But I think that all of those, and then Thomas Hennessy, I'm going to start a Pro Bowl campaign for Thomas Hennessy because that man's got to get to the Pro Bowl.
How is the long snapper Pro Bowl? How do they even...
It's PR.
Quantify that.
PR. That's why I'm saying I got to start a campaign.
Yeah,
but if you're part of a good special team,
his snaps were this many inches away from the center. He's the best.
If you are part of a good special team, you know what? That'll be I'll change it, Mike. I'm going to change it. I think the Jets have multiple Pro Bowler special teamers.
Now that's bold.
That is a better prediction than what I said. And I think it's going to be Kenny Nwangwu, and I think it's going to be Thomas freaking Hennessy. I think both, or Austin McNamara. Either way, I think
I think it's going to be one of the 3 guys and then one of the other 2 guys.
Or Nick Foles.
That'll be the 2 of the 3.
Or Jamal Pritchett. I don't know. We'll see. Or
one of those designated special teamer.
Or Jamarcus Weston comes back from IR and he makes it. I don't know. But I think they'll get multiple Pro Bowler special teamers. I'm very bullish on this special teams unit going into 2025. I think Chris Banjo has shown a lot of promise.
With such a hot candidate too for a lot of coordinators.
He absolutely was.
Jobs.
And I think the personnel that they brought in there, they've clearly prioritized it a lot. I'm very optimistic about what the special teams unit could look like this year. And if the Jets are going to sneak into playoff contention, right? If they want to be playing meaningful games in December, they're going to need a great defense and they're going to need a great special teams unit because we know the offense is not going to be great. And I think it's possible. I think it's definitely possible.
And if we are going to do a good Steelers preview, we need a Steelers writer, and that's what we got for you. So
very true.
So as we look forward to week 1 against the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Aaron Rodgers revenge game or the Justin Fields revenge game, whichever one you choose, we are going to go bring in a very special guest, Tommy Jagai, who is the editor-in-chief over at Still Curtain. You can go check him out there. Tommy, thank you as always for tuning in.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me on. And you are pure entertainment. I mean, you are the best thing out there right now. It's this McAfee level stuff. So any of you guys in the live chat, don't go anywhere. Keep coming back for this.
I see the direct deposit to your account just hit. So.
Yeah, we'll slide you 20 after. Thanks, Tommy. Tommy's the best. If anybody is a Steelers fan in chat, you probably already know Tommy. You probably already know his work over at Still Curtain, but he's the best. Also know that he is taking time away from one of his kids' birthdays today to be here. So much appreciated, buddy.
So it's got to be really good. So let's get into this, Tommy. Now, it would be what we could do is just say, how is Aaron Rodgers doing? And then you go, he's doing great. And then we go, we thought he was doing great before 2024 just sucked all the life out of us. But coming to the Steelers in 2025, a lot of the mystique and the aura kind of wore off him with the Jets, which tends to happen with the Jets. I remember even when they signed, there was a lot of consternation among Steelers fans, like, okay, we're really doing this, especially because he even said he's probably only got the 1 year left. Has that sort of ebbed away a little bit and they're back fully on the Rodgers train, or is there a little bit of what are we doing here with the whole Rodgers circus?
Yeah, I mean, the fan base was pretty torn at the beginning. We kind of figured that this was going to be the case. We knew it was going to be Rodgers for a long time. But half the Steelers fans want to move on. They want to turn that page, get the next franchise quarterback. This is a 1 year thing. He's toyed with the idea of coming back. He's mentioned that to his Steelers teammates. That's very much contingent on how he does this year. And obviously things did not go very well with the Jets. He needs to be much more like the Aaron Rodgers we saw 3 years ago. You go back any further than that, we can't expect MVP level performance, but I think that there is still the buzz is still real around it, at least until we see him on the field. What does he look like when you remove him from a cancerous organization like the New York Jets? We'll see. But I mean, the Steelers, to their credit, have had success somehow with Kenny Pickett, Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, Duck Hodges. Like, they find a way to make it work regardless of who is at the helm, at least good enough to sneak into the playoff race, not any postseason success. But I would have to venture a guess that Aaron Rodgers can get them at least to that point, maybe beyond.
It's fair. Some of that sounds pretty familiar, though. I'm not going to lie. I will say, this might not be funny for you, Tommy, but Mike, how funny would it be if after making the playoffs or going at least 500 with Kenny Pickett, with Duck Hodges, with whoever, they finally break that streak with Aaron Rodgers? I know that wouldn't be funny for you.
After getting DK Metcalf and Jalen Ramsey and all these other...
and he just goes in there and it all falls apart. Yeah. Part of me would find a little humor in that. But I want to talk to you a little bit about Justin Fields, Tommy, because you saw Justin Fields play last year with Pittsburgh, and I want to know what your take was on not only his performance last year, but going into the offseason. I know there was some contingent of Steelers fans that wanted him back. It seems like he had a lot of support in the locker room as well. Where did you stand on Justin Fields, both in 2024 and then going into 2025, if you wanted the team to bring him back?
Well, I'll tell you where I stood originally and then where I stood when he got benched. And originally, Justin Fields was the guy I wanted. He was 25 years old at the time. I was bullish on him when he came out in the draft and was 11th overall pick. I thought there was something there still to work with. And the Steelers, for whatever reason, Tomlin behind closed doors, promised the job to one Russell Wilson, and the job was his entering week 7. And so I wanted Justin Fields at the time. I didn't think his benching was justified, and I thought the Steelers should have played him the rest of the season. I mean, you are a team in limbo. You need to figure out what you have. And if Justin Fields could be something for you in the future, there's no better way than to play him. Now, I will say that he was a bit shaky and inconsistent as a passer. He had some of the best passes of the season last year in the first 6 games that he played. Like, he had one that was on a frozen rope, like rolling to his right. He can do those types of things. And I'm sure you guys have seen glimpses of that already of him at training camp. But the benching to me was not justified when he had just led the Steelers to a 4-2 record at the time. They were winning football games. They were executing Tomlin's game plan, which was to run the football effectively, which the Steelers were much better at with Fields on the field than with Wilson on the field. And they were winning games. And so he wasn't perfect. He kind of had a wishy-washy performance against the Raiders the week before he got benched, but the Steelers still won that game by 2 scores. And yet he got benched anyway. And so I think the Steelers made the wrong call. Had they let him play out the whole season, you would have seen what you had in him. And now maybe the Jets are kind of guessing the same thing. They haven't seen a lot of sample of him recently.
Looking at this Steelers offense, the way it's constructed, how do you think the relationship with Rodgers and Arthur Smith is going? Because Arthur Smith, pretty decent OC, all things considered, has a reputation of kind of working with very mobile quarterbacks. He has like a Marcus Mariota, even Tannehill in Tennessee. Obviously, Fields in Pittsburgh, there was a lot of using his legs to great effect. Not only is Rodgers not going to be a mobile quarterback at this stage of his career, where he's basically rooted to the pocket at this point, but whenever he goes somewhere, even a Matt LaFleur offense, he always kind of molds it to his liking a little bit. Have you sensed that the relationship's going okay there? Because when Rodgers came to the Jets, they pretty much just said, all right, you are the offensive coordinator. Nathaniel Hackett's nominally the offensive coordinator, but this is going to be the Aaron Rodgers show. Is it going to be that again, or is he kind of letting Arthur Smith do his thing?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it's going to be more of a marriage between the two. I don't think that Arthur Smith is going to run his offense like he did the last 4 years, or go back even further than that when he had Ryan Tannehill in Tennessee. I think there's going to be a lot of Aaron Rodgers integration. I think there's going to be more passing than most fans anticipate, because Rodgers is going to have control and he's going to have the free reins to make some of those calls as well. So we'll have to see how this is going to work out. I mean, Arthur Smith has been very set in his ways in terms of making sure you are the most run-heavy offense in the NFL. I think the scales tip back a little bit more towards the passing game because of Aaron Rodgers, but I think it's going to be kind of a blend between the two.
Yeah, we saw that struggle last year with the Jets. I mean, they ranked dead last in rush attempts in the NFL, and that was not necessarily because of the personnel that they had, because their offensive line, for some of the flaws that it had, and they had a couple injuries, was not bad. And
let's also keep in mind they had an OC who didn't call plays and a passing game coordinator calling the plays. Well, they weren't allowed to fire him because it's Aaron Rodgers.
And again, it was a lot of times Aaron Rodgers would check out of a pass play or check out of a run play and switch to a pass play. So you would see that a lot. We'll see how much that happens in Pittsburgh, but I definitely can see there being some sort of a friction. I don't want to be dramatic here, but some sort of a differing in philosophies.
Oh, no, not for Rodgers. Friction's not dramatic. As good as he is, there's always, even when he was winning, I think friction followed him for a long time.
It's before week 1. I don't want to be too negative yet, especially to our kind guest. Let's talk about not the quarterback position for a second. There's been a lot of talk about Armand Membu and how he might hold up against the Steelers pass rush, but I want to flip that conversation around and look at Broderick Jones, right? Because Broderick Jones is someone Jets fans know very well. Of course, there was rumors that the Jets were looking to target him in that 2023 draft. The Steelers took him 1 pick before the Jets. The Jets ended up with Will McDonald. That pick has worked out for them. Broderick Jones, there's been growing pains, to say the least. Now he's playing left tackle for Pittsburgh. He's going to be matched up against Jermaine Johnson, against Will McDonald, somebody who he's kind of forever going to be tied to. What's been the status report on Jones this summer? How confident do you feel in Jones playing left tackle, and how concerned are you about this matchup?
Look, I don't think anybody should feel confident in Broderick Jones right now after what we witnessed in his first 2 seasons. Now he's back on the left side where he was at Georgia, where he was in high school. And so I think he's going to be more comfortable there in the long run. I watched everything he had from preseason. I threw the all 22 film on those. I cut all those highlights up on my X account. Here's the thing with offensive linemen. You guys know this. You can be good on 95% of the reps, which is what Broderick Jones has been. But it's those 3 or 4 ugly reps in a game that can get your quarterback killed. And like I said on my podcast earlier today, in this case, it's a 41-year-old quarterback who doesn't have the mobility that he used to. Now, I think that Broderick has the traits to stick there and be the guy that they drafted him to be, but it's going to take some cleaning up. He can't have he lunges too often, mechanical errors, sloppy footwork at times. We're still seeing some of the same traits throughout the summer. He had a really rough start to the training camp, by the way, this year until the pads came on. You could see kind of those mechanical errors, stronger finish to camp, pretty good in the preseason overall, but still, again, if you take his 4 or 5 worst reps and put them together, it's a really ugly compilation. And it's those type of reps that I think that should have Steelers fans fearful still.
Looking at this Steelers team, there aren't very many areas where I can look at unit by unit and go, I think the Jets are better here. One thing I'll give the Jets credit for is if you look at the Steelers wide receivers against the Jets secondary, I think there's a distinctive, not only because Sauce Gardner is, I don't know why he's not in the top 100 or why he has the reputation he does, but he's the pure act of covering a guy, good as it gets. Obviously, I think Brandon Stevens, while not amazing, I think is in for a better 2025. Michael Carter, one of the better slot corners in the league, and then the safety position, not great, but improved from what it was last year with the Andre Cisco signing. And the Steelers have DK Metcalf, and he is a phenomenal talent, and he's still really good, and they haven't had a guy like Metcalf in a while, and he's an upgrade over George Pickens. But you look at the rest of that receiver room. I mean, we were complaining about Josh Reynolds and Arian Smith and Tyler Johnson. I mean, the Steelers' room outside of Metcalf is very similar to the Jets. It's just as grim right now because there's a lot of unproven guys. Calvin Austin is still sticking around somehow and that sort of role. How confident are you? Let's say Metcalf, something happens and he's out for a couple games. How confident are you in this wide receiver room they're going to be able to actually make some plays?
Well, first, Mike, I got to say that NFL top 100, that was something. That was some kind of list because Patrick Queen made the cut and he was over Cam Hayward. Some wild stuff going. I think.
Tell me Tua is better than Sauce Gardner with a straight face because that's what that list told me.
Bo Nix was like 40.
Wasn't Blake Bortles in the 50s one year? I mean,
Mac Jones was at 70-something a couple years ago.
It was a disaster. It was a disaster. But if Metcalf goes out, I mean, you're looking really grim. And to be fair, I mean, I think you can say this about a lot of teams. You lose your number one receiver, but the Steelers' depth is not good. And Jets fans should know that really well because you guys wouldn't want to have to go to Josh Reynolds if anything happened to Garrett Wilson. So Metcalf is pivotal to the success of this offense. He needs to be the best version of himself if it's to succeed. Now, I like Roman Wilson. I think this guy is really unproven, shot in the dark here. I had this on one of my bold predictions in our show earlier today. I think Roman Wilson is going to emerge as the number 2 receiver for this team. And it is bold because he's only played 5 snaps, basically had to redshirt his rookie season. But you go back and watch what this guy did during his college career. I mean, he was the number 1 receiver on a championship team, 2.3% drop rate, best in college football when he was drafted. He went on to be, in my opinion, the best receiver at the Senior Bowl, looked encouraging, then got injured in training camp, missed essentially the whole year. Now this year he looks really strong again. He had an awesome preseason. They played him very early in the games, couple series, took him out. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a guy that kind of takes the league by storm a little bit with the opportunities, but he's only their 3rd receiver right now in 11 personnel. And that's Calvin Austin's going to be their number 2 to start the year. So maybe not as threatening for the Jets, but overall 100% couldn't agree more. If something happens to DK Metcalf, I don't know how you're going to get this offense to run. You're probably going to see a ton of 13 personnel, which the Steelers plan to use anyway this year with their combination of Freiermuth, Jonnu Smith, and Darnell Washington. I think that they want to get those 3 tight ends on the field often. And you talk about it specifically for the Jets matchup against Sauce. Like if you can take Metcalf out of this game, the Jets will be right in this contest for sure, because I don't know who else you trust in the Steelers offense. And I think it could be rocky on both sides because we got new quarterbacks just switch jerseys this year. They got to build some chemistry with these guys.
We're definitely going to get a lot of old school smash mouth football because I think the Jets are also going to run a lot of like 12, 13 personnel. Like they have 5 tight ends.
Game out there.
Yeah, they have 5 tight ends on their roster and 5 wide receivers if you're counting Andrew Beck as a tight end. So I think the Jets have made it very clear with their personnel decisions what they plan to do on offense this year.
They just can't do it now because there's no AVT. So
I'm going to put this comment up there. I have no idea. If you guys want to take a stab at it, I saw it in chat. I have no idea. Brian is our resident statistician in chat. Brian says, trivia question, Justin Fields will become only the 5th former Steelers QB to start in a game against the Steelers after playing for them post-merger in 1966. Can you name the other 4? As a bonus, can you name any of the other 4 who appeared against the Steelers off the bench? I got no clue.
I'm going to say maybe Cordell Stewart after he left might have been one of them.
Maybe like, what is there like a Jets? Maybe he's doing like Neil O'Donnell for like a Jets tie-in or something like that, because he was a Steelers quarterback.
Yeah, because he led.
That very well could be. That could be. You got any?
You caught me way off guard with this question. I was not prepared for that, but I'd have to think about that, because
Bubby Brister played for the Steelers for a while.
Bubby, also Jets legend, Bubby Brister.
That might be one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I figured I'd throw that up there in case anybody wanted to take a stab at it.
That'll be your homework assignment, chat.
Okay.
We'll be figuring that out.
Ask AI.
I'll ask you one more thing here, and this I think is more like maybe more of a fantasy question, right? For anybody who's looking at that Steelers backfield and having questions about what it might look like in 2025. Of course, they drafted Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. They just extended Jaylen Warren as well, which I don't know if that was like a surprise or not, but it came like not that he got like big money or anything like that, but I was like, oh, it piqued my interest because they had just drafted Caleb Johnson. I know they kind of fill different roles in that offense and they're different kind of players. What do you think the backfield split, at least for this week 1 matchup, is going to look like? Is it going to be, 70% Jaylen Warren and then a little Kenny Gainwell sprinkled in, a little Caleb Johnson, or do you think maybe Johnson gets a little bit more run than people are expecting?
Man, I would think it'd be 70% or 70% Jaylen Warren, 20% Caleb Johnson, 10% Kenneth Gainwell. Gainwell will be the 3rd down back. I think that's what they brought him in for. And you look at the Steelers over the last several years when they had the tandem of Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris, there were years where a 3rd running back didn't touch the football from the backfield, got receptions, but never got the carries. So assuming that Warren and Caleb Johnson stay healthy, I don't see a lot of reason to run Kenneth Gainwell. But starting off, there's no doubt in my mind Warren's going to play the biggest role out of all of them. Just got the contract, the most proven guy of the group. Johnson has got to prove himself as a pass protector and as a receiver as well from the backfield. And if you can do those things, I can see that split changing by the second half of the year. I'm very optimistic about some of the runs that I've seen. I think he's a true wide zone runner. I think he fits Arthur Smith's offense really well. And he's got deceitful speed once you get out in space. It's build-up speed for sure. So the best way you can get him near the line of scrimmage, go down. But if he can get ahead of steam, he's got the ability to bust off some big runs.
One last question before we get into kind of predictions and things like that. What's the temperature on Mike Tomlin and his job status? Because Jets fans would lose a limb to get the kind of stability, and while he hasn't won a Super Bowl, he's got Super Bowls, the consistent winning, the in the playoffs all the time. I mean, they have not made the playoffs in now 14 years. It is getting incredibly dire out there. It can look, as a Jets fan, it can look every time I see, oh, Mike Tomlin doesn't know what he's doing, get rid of him. I do get a little bit like, oh, you people don't know what other franchises have been going through.
I say this all the time. Jet Press is the only fan-sided site or fan-sided NFL site who've never covered a playoff game. I say that all the time, but it's true, and it's an insane fact.
Having said that, though, if they get into the playoffs for like, the 4th or 5th year in a row where they barely sneak in and play the 2 seed and get crushed, I could see them at least trying to make a change. Is that kind of the status for Tomlin, where if he doesn't really win a playoff game this year, he might kind of be out?
So we get this question all the time, and rightfully so, because the results haven't been there in the postseason, but the answer is always the same. It's whether we believe he should be on the bubble or not, he never is. Mike Tomlin is going to leave on his own terms unless things go really bad. And even then, I think it might have to be 2 years in a row for the Steelers to turn the page on Tomlin. He signed an extension last offseason. He's going to play out his contract at least, and then maybe get another one on top of that. Now, I would be the first to argue that sometimes change can be beneficial. And I'm not saying that if the Steelers got rid of Tomlin, he's snatched up just like that. There are teams out there who would take him instantly. But I think of the Eagles as a beautiful example of how when you moved on from Andy Reid, you went and won a Super Bowl with Doug Peterson. And then you went and did it again after that with Sirianni. And so they've had tons of success since moving on from a legendary NFL coach. The Steelers might be able to find the same route. There's no guarantee you get a good coach. They have a really good track record, by the way, in the NFL era. It's just Chuck Noll and Bill Cowher and Tomlin. But Tomlin has already outlasted Cowher by, I believe, 3 years. Cowher was a great coach. Things have gotten stale. You want to talk about lack of playoff success. You guys know that more than anybody. So I can't relate there.
What is that, an insult?
No, you want to look at this 14-year sample. Do you know the Steelers over the last 14 years now, they have 3 playoff wins. They came against Matt Moore and the Dolphins, Alex Smith and the Chiefs, and AJ McCarron and the Bengals. Those are it.
Wow.
Those are the 3 playoff wins over the last 14 years. So we are in a rut. As
AJ McCarron, fans. I think, was the Vontaze Burfict knocking Antonio Brown out of,
and that wouldn't have even been a win. So you're right. But the lack of success, it's really, really dry. Can they get to 9 wins every year? Yeah, they can do that. But they're going on 8 years without a single playoff win, and something's got to change at some point. So I'm not saying the answer is get rid of Tomlin, but I think things have gotten stale, to say the least.
Let's get into predictions right here. As the guest of honor, I'll let Tommy go first. What he thinks is going to happen in the Week 1 dual revenge game between the Jets and the Steelers.
All right, so I do think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think that both of these teams have got a lot of figuring out to do. Obviously, the Jets jumbling around, trying to find solutions on their offensive line. I feel for Vera-Tucker so much. I went through an ACL. I went through an Achilles.
Yeah.
And from a Steelers example, they lost James Daniels 4 weeks into the season last year. Daniels was the highest-graded guard in the NFL. They had to do some finagling of their own, and so I know that's going to affect them just days before the game. But you've got new quarterbacks. You've got a couple new weapons for both of these teams. I don't think it's going to be smooth sailing right off the gate. And I think you're going to see a lot of sloppy play probably. So I do have the Steelers taking this one. I think their roster is a little bit stronger overall. They don't have as many maybe holes as what the Jets might have, or at least early in the season. And they got Tomlin. They typically come out pretty strong in these games. I've got the Steelers taking this one 20-17, but I also think it could be one of those games where it's like 16-13, 17-13, something like that.
As we get a quote from Echelon Motion Pictures, hopefully they end up licensing the eventual Jet Press movie here. Pittsburgh wins 31-17, 31 points against. 31. I know the Jets are going to be some world beater here, but if they give up 31 in Week 1 to this Aaron Rodgers, I'm going to be a little peeved. Aren't you, Justin?
It's funny you said 2017 because that was the exact score line that I was thinking. I'm feeling a very similar vibe where I do not expect this to be a high scoring. You got 2 new quarterbacks learning 2 new offenses. I mean, Rodgers I guess he's learning Arthur Smith's offense while also adding elements of his own. You have to get them to develop chemistry with their new weapons. I think there's going to be a lot of growing pains along the way for both of these offenses. And also Aaron Rodgers historically has struggled in Week 1s. I wish I had the exact stat in front of me, but it was a really nice, interesting tidbit from a Rich Cimini article earlier this week where he kind of laid it out, where it's like the last 5 Week 1s that Rodgers has played, he's really struggled. And I wonder how much of that is coincidence and how much of that is just, who he is. And especially now at this stage of his career, like the last couple of Week 1s, not a surprise. But I'm going to do something a little bit
2023 Week 1, he really didn't have a lot of passing yards.
So. Hey, he didn't complete a pass, Mike, so it was pretty bad.
They had to get rid of him immediately.
They pulled him instantly. After that one drive, they're like, we've seen enough. No, I'm going to go a little bit different, though. I feel like I'm normally a little bit more pessimistic than you with these predictions, Mike, especially early in the year. I'm like, I think so. You disagree?
I would say the exact opposite.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like I'm usually like, the Jets are going to find a way to this is the Jets. Maybe it was just last year. I mean, that was
last year. But how could you be positive?
Valid. We were both pretty pessimistic. I'm going to pull out a shocker, and I'm going to say the Jets win 20-17, and it's going to be a Nick Folk game-winning field goal, and the vibes are going to be immaculate, and they're going to win 5 games or 6 games this year. But for just 1 week, for this 1 week alone, they're going to feel great. I think Justin Fields throws for 120 yards. Garrett Wilson has half of his completions, maybe more than half of his completions. They do not do much on offense, but Rodgers is he struggles under the weight of some pressure from the Jets front 4. I think Will McDonald might have a field day against Broderick Jones. And, I think it's like you touched on this earlier, Tommy. It's a lot different when you're blocking for Aaron Rodgers as opposed to Justin Fields, who, Fields holds on to the ball forever, and he will make his offensive line look bad because he holds on to the ball and he takes a lot of sacks because of that. But he's also able to extend the plays a lot more than a 41-year-old Aaron Rodgers can do. If the Jets are getting any pressure at all on Rodgers, I can see that being very problematic for that Steelers offense. So I think that could be the difference maker. Now, you could also say the opposite, where especially now after this Alijah Vera-Tucker injury. Hey, if the Steelers are constantly getting into backfield and making life difficult for Fields, they're going to have a difficult time. And I think that's very possible. I'm just hoping that the Jets can lean enough on their ground game and lean enough on scheming, I guess this offense where, you're hoping to get some dump offs to Breece Hall and some underneath passes to Mason Taylor and just get the ball in Garrett Wilson's hand as much as you can, not take many chances. Don't push the ball downfield unless you get Arian Smith out there, then you can maybe stretch the field. But that's my thinking behind that. And also because I have to hold true to my prediction that special teams are going to be the key for the Jets this year. So I think they win their first game. Maybe included in that 20-17 prediction is a Kenny Nwangwu kick return touchdown. I'll also include that.
So Fields does even less. That's
correct. Great. I do not think they win this game. If they do, I do not think they win it because of Justin Fields.
Yeah, I'm going to say the Jets lose 20-14 for
Fair.
2 reasons. Number one, not only the AVT injury, as much as we like Armand Membu and we think he's going to be a future Pro Bowler, like TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Alex Highsmith, that's a hell of a draw. Week 1, I don't think the offensive line is fully realized yet, and I think the Steelers are going to take advantage of that. And we mentioned this earlier in the stream, but they have Jalen Ramsey now. I'd imagine if they probably stick him on Garrett Wilson, they're going to find some way to maybe bracket him and just say anybody else beat us except for Garrett Wilson, and the Jets don't have a guy who can beat them outside of Garrett. Mason Taylor maybe, but he's a rookie. Josh Reynolds is 30-year-old Josh Reynolds. We thought it was going to be Tyler Johnson, and then they ended up doing some roster gymnastics, cutting with him. So.
He might be on the active roster for week 1. I'm glad you bring up Garrett really quick because I'm actually interested to see what the Jets do with their slot receiver position this year. Hasn't really been a topic of conversation much this summer, but I think you're going to see a lot of Garrett in the slot because Allen Lazard and Josh Reynolds are your other top 2 wide receivers. Lazard can be a big slot. And maybe if they're running,
I can be a supermodel too, but I'm not going to be as effective at it as other people.
I think if they're running the ball a lot, they might use Lazard more in that big slot role just to get him closer to the back or to the line of scrimmage, closer to, I guess, where the action is going to be in the run play. But I think a lot of times you're going to see Garrett Wilson in the slot, which if the Steelers are planning to play Ramsey there, they're going to be matched up more often than not.
And with that, we're going to call time on this episode of the Jet Press Podcast. As always, thank you so much for joining in. And Tommy, thank you so much for letting us in on what's going on and the new Aaron Rodgers stop over in Pittsburgh and what the Jets' week 1 opponent is getting up to right now. So thank you for tuning in.
I appreciate you guys having me on anytime.
Yep. Hey, promote your stuff. Where can people find you?
You can find us at stillcurtain.com. You can find our video content on Still Curtain's YouTube channel. Look that up. You can listen to your podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Also, if you'd like general NFL content, we do the Stacking the Box podcast as well. Go check out that one on YouTube.
There you go. Mike, also a resident of the Stacking the Box podcast. You know it very well.
All right, Tom, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, Tommy. All right.
Appreciate it, guys.
Let's wrap it up. All right. Good show, Mike. Any final thoughts before we wrap it up and get to week 1? We will be streaming live, by the way. I was about to mention this, but for those who don't know or are new to the show, maybe weren't around last year, we stream live immediately following every single Jets game as well. So we will be here Sunday, immediately following that game, talking about the Jets, hopefully talking about a Nick Folk game-winning touchdown, that'd be crazy. A Nick Folk game-winning touchdown. Imagine that.
Like a reverse.
They fake a field goal and then Austin McNamara throws.
College football used to have this play, the video game where the guy would get it and then he'd flip it over his head and the kicker would run.
Yes. And he could also throw it. I know that exactly what you're talking about.
That play, yeah.
Yes. Maybe they do that and he throws it to Jelani Woods in the end zone and they get a touchdown. You heard it here first, folks.
Selena McCrary ball or something.
Yeah. But until next time, thank you all for joining us on the show today. You can follow Mike on Twitter at @ByMikeLuciano. Follow me on Twitter, Justin D. Fried. Follow the Jet Press at the Jet Press. You also, as Tommy mentioned, go read his stuff on Still Curtain. Follow him on Twitter. I don't know if it's at Tommy Jaggi, but look up Tommy Jaggi. I don't think there's many more people like that. Jaggi is how you spell his last name.
You'll find him eventually.
You'll find him. You can download the Jet Press Podcast wherever you get podcasts. Check us out on YouTube and TikTok. Subscribe, hit that notification bell. You guys know what to do. We stream live every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern Time and live immediately following every single Jets game. Thank you all for listening to Jet Press Podcast. I've been Justin Fried. That's Mike Luciano. Jets football's back. We'll see you on Sunday.
Get well soon, AVT.